Welcome everybody. This is today's lesson, a beautiful day to learn. Today with us, this is Peter. Peter, how are you? And if
Yeah,
you want
good.
to tell us a bit more about your background and about yourself.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes, I am obviously I'm 50, mid 50s now. Was born and lived in Australia all my life. Sadly, I'd love to experience a bit more of the world, but grew up in a simple everyday lifestyle, family lifestyle, and then in my young early teens, I started losing my vision, and then became totally blind at the age of early 30s. And that sort of is my life has worked a lot around. I've had to live and learn and work around vision impairment and family and life and cope with how all that goes.
Got you. So, when was it the first time that you realized, that you knew that you were getting blind?
I started finding out I was losing my eyesight when I was in early teenage years, 14, 15.
All right, listen.
And then it made my schooling for my last few years quite difficult because I was in denial of it all because it was a very slow progressing vision impairment vision
Yeah.
disease. So I tried to hide it and deny it, and I was slow at reading, slow at school, and it didn't help me socially or
Mm,
didn't help me with academically. So I actually didn't do very well and didn't go very far at school because of that. Well, and probably more, I could have done better, but it was my attitude in that caused the problem.
excellent. What was the disease that you had at the
It's
time?
called retinitis pigmentosa. It's a very common form. It's a hereditary disease where you lose your eyesight over quite a lot of years. Like it took me probably close to 20 years from when I first got diagnosed to being
Wow.
totally blind.
Yeah, it's pretty slow.
Very slow, yeah. So it's not something that happens quickly.
Yeah. All right, excellent. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to be here with you, Peter, today, yeah, I really admire you because I see you being really confident. I know you are with Jim, your guide dog,
Yes,
but I really see you are very confident, going around everywhere, running. Uh,
slowly running.
yeah, coming back. But also you mentioned a couple of things to me about the business that you started like some 20 years ago.
Yeah,
And so we can go, yeah, you can
yeah.
tell us a bit more about how did all this started?
It all started. I sort of fluked a job a little bit in a plastics factory. So I started as a just an operator working in a plastics factory, which I actually loved. And by now, I was quite, yeah, I just felt like I knew what I was doing. And it was a brand new company. And I was working there for only about a year at this place. And it was really hard to get at because I wasn't driving. And I finished up, got asked to go to another company, which was more convenient, which is more industrial packaging plastics. And I went over there and I worked there for 4 or 5 years and I absolutely loved it and did really well. And I was actually working there in operations. I started as internal sales, but then I was coordinating between the factory and the sales side of it. So I was involved in production and marketing and sales. Loved it. But the problem was the company was in recycling company. It wasn't going very well in those days, and I got retrenched after 4 or 5 years, and I found it really stressful because by now my vision loss was starting to. I was probably 23, something like that, 24 maybe
Yeah.
25, and my vision loss had sort of progressed to a point where it was starting to become more than just difficulty reading. It was becoming a mobility issue as well. Anyway, I didn't know what to do. I got offered a job by a company, the similar company in Sydney, which I could have taken, but I didn't know anybody up there, and I decided I'm going to take the risk and start my own business
Mm.
instead of. And I was lucky. I come from a good family, which was able to help me financially set up, and my dad was a good mentor to all that. He was a businessman, but he's not in this industry. So I started this business in 1990
All right.
in my home at home, and worked from home, buying and selling material to industrial customers for about 2 years from home, and I was going okay. And then I decided to lease a little warehouse in Ringwood, and then worked from there, and then grew and grew, and now it's what is it, 2022, and the business is still going, and it's
Well
provided very
done.
well for myself and my family, and now I'm at the stage where I'm coming out the other end, and I'm instead of working so hard as I was in 1990
Yeah.
I'm now working 4 days a week, sometimes three, and trying to leave the business to other people to manage a little bit for
Fair
me.
enough. Very impressive.
Mm.
Well, it's been around 30 years. The business is still running. You
Yeah,
said it has been enough to provide for yourself, your family, and
yeah.
well, probably more with
It's
challenges. What has been one of the main challenges that you have had in the company?
I I'll tell you what I found a lot of trouble with over time is, well, challenges. Everyone has staff challenges, but I think not being able to see was difficult. I found managing staff was something I found more difficult than other people. I could always get along well with staff, but I wasn't a very good manager of staff. So every time I grew and put new people on,
Mm,
I don't think I did it very well.
yeah.
Um, and I'm not sure whether it's me or my circumstances, but it's probably more likely to be me. But
Well,
I've always recognised I'm not very good at training, and I'm
yeah.
probably not very.
Did you have some patience or not that
I'm
much?
patient. I'm too patient. I let people
Yeah.
get away with too
Ah,
much
okay,
rather
not
than
too much.
instruct them and sort of make sure help
Mm,
people do things correctly. I sort of prefer just to do it myself, sort of thing. And
yeah.
that's probably something I've learned probably over the last few years. I'm better. I actually give people plenty of opportunity, but
Mm,
I expect people too much. I just expect people to be able to do things as well as you do them, even
mm,
though I've been doing it for 30 years. People don't
yeah.
know what you know, and I've just become better at learning it, and I've become better at teaching it. But I still know it's my weak point in running a business.
That's all right. You were not sure about it, but you still did it. Hey,
Oh yeah,
one
well,
on the other way.
yeah, I've probably been disappointing to a couple of staff members, but
Um,
they've got to work. If you've got good initiative, you can work hard and do it and take over. You don't. It does. It's not hard. You learn the products. It's not hard.
you mentioned that you learned your father was a businessman as well. What would you say you learned from your father?
um, Probably he was a very hard worker, my dad, and certainly for a long time I was also a very hard worker, and I still consider myself a pretty good worker.
Mm,
But you know, but what he always taught me, and it's something I listened to, and is one of the things that's really important with business and customer relationship in mostly is um, attention to detail.
mhm,
And like if someone asks you for a quote on something, always don't just write an email back that says, "Oh yeah, roll up tape or put some plastic back." You actually it's always important to give a neat email and a good description and an accurate and clear def, definite description of the goods and an accurate and clear price thing. And then if you get a question, always answer it clearly. Don't just and so I'm
mm,
very responsive to customers.
yeah.
I'm very clear and detailed. Try to be clear and detailed with customers. Yeah, it doesn't mean to say occasionally if someone asks a quick question on something, you can just reply back a quick yes, no, fine. But when your initial contacts, I think attention to detail is really important. Customers appreciate it because then they know they're talking to somebody
Yeah.
who knows what they're talking about. But if you don't give something that's clear and detailed, they don't understand. They think, oh, he doesn't even know any more than I know about a product or a service or whatever your business is
So
involved
you
in.
will say what you learned from your father was to talk to the customers like in a clear way,
Yeah,
in a sense,
accurately, clearly, yep, and
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 hard
with
work.
detail, and respond in, just take attention, just pay a little bit of attention to the detail that they would want to know, and think about what your customer would want if you were the customer, what detail would be important to you, and just assume that they don't know anything about what you're offering them.
What did you learn from your mom? You think of your, I don't know,
Ah, my
at time.
mum. My mum's a difficult personality, and
Yeah.
but she's still okay. But my mum, she she was always a charitable person. My mum
Mm,
spent a lot of time looking after other people. She didn't actually have a career. She was a house mum, so she wasn't. She was always around. She always spent time with, like, for example, there was nothing too hard about picking up and dropping off kids and taking kids and their friends around and having them around and dealing and looking after. She was very good to have people around. She was,
thinking of that, like
yeah,
first what you learned from your parents, but
yeah.
now you have how many children?
I have two, but my children are grown up. I've got a son, he's 25,
Oh, yeah.
and a daughter who's 22. Now,
So, for example, what will be some of the lessons that you would like to?
uh, well, one of the things I tried to do with both my kids when they were
Yeah.
going through school, I wanted to, and my dad was always good at this, I wanted to be involved with everything they did. Like I absolutely loved being at their sporting events or if they did arts, what plays, and I just wouldn't miss anything.
Mm.
And I love going to school events or whatever club sport or gymnastics or whatever they do, the two of them. And so I was a very involved parent.
Yeah.
And then one of the early in early in their lives when they were very small, that was when my son was born in 1997. So my business was quite busy and taking quite a few hours in those days. And then it was probably when my son was 4 or 5 and my daughter was probably 1 or 2. I decided that I was going to try. It didn't happen every day, but most days of the week I would have breakfast with my children and dinner with my children.
Nice.
So I didn't want to be one of those people that went off early in the morning and then came home after dinner and just sort of tuck the kids in, say goodnight and whatever. I
Yeah.
wanted to be involved. So that was one of the things I loved. And I absolutely loved being a parent. It was my greatest achievement.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. That's good.
That's one thing I did get right, I think. I wasn't perfect at that though either, by the way. No one's perfect, but there was always issues with bringing up children. But yeah, I'm really proud of both of them, and they're both going really well.
I'm happy about it.
Mm.
What would you say that were some of the what helped you the most to go through blindness math?
What
To
helped me?
yeah.
Um, well, that was challenging as well. I mean, I had and have still times where you deal with it really well, and other times where it can get you down a little bit, or it can annoy you as much as anything.
Mm.
But there was certainly what helped me. Well, see, I didn't. What helped me the most was when the aids got better. Like when I first started losing
Um,
my vision at school, there was no such thing as a computer
yeah, like
or a
technology.
phone. The technology wasn't very good. So if I needed to listen to a book, you'd have to get a big
Mm.
pile of cassette tapes and a
Mhm.
tape recorder, and you couldn't reference books. You couldn't just pull out a reference on on a menu and all this sort of stuff and get to a point you wanted to. You'd have to go back and listen to tape. So all that sort of stuff improved. Then the visual computers improved, and then I got a guide dog, and I got that was a massive step for me.
Yeah, what's the role of a guide dog for you in
Well,
your case?
because when I was first lost my eyesight, I was in denial. Well, not in denial. I don't know
For
what it
how
was.
long?
Oh, years. I like not in denial, but and it's very, very common where people don't want other people to realise they're blind. Like they'll hide their cane if they use a cane at social events,
Yeah,
or they'll. And I was like this. Yeah, and I tried to pretend it wasn't happening. But then it gets to the point where you can no longer pretend. But even though you're trying to pretend this, everybody knows. Everybody knows. And
yeah,
and you can't, and you don't talk about it. So the biggest step was probably when it's almost like a coming out. I came out and used my cane in public, and then once you get a dog, then you are wedded to a dog. Like they're always with you,
yeah,
and they're very, very. It's very, very obvious then once you've got a guide dog. Well, this person's vision impaired,
yeah.
and then it becomes it. It certainly became a relief and easier when I was sort of so totally accepting by then where I'm at, and then I was keen. Once I became accepting of where I was, then I was a massive um, took an uptaker of the technology and looked for the good technology to suit my requirements, used it, bought it, and um, and that made my life easier. That
How long do you think it took from the time you were in denial until you finally kind of accepted?
I reckon it was. I reckon I finally accepted it in about 8 years later. But don't forget it took me over 20 years to lose my eyesight. So
Yeah,
when I lost it, when I accepted it and came comfortable in talking about it, and people seeing that I used a cane. I've been losing my eyesight for quite a long time, but I could probably still sit. I could probably walk around without using a cane, but slowly and carefully, and think. But yeah, and it just became obvious so that I was struggling, and particularly at night. So
yeah.
it was a long time. It was a difficult 5 to 8 years of denial. That
Wow.
was the worst time of it.
Yeah, that sounds long, but maybe other people they might live in denial forever, you know?
Oh, there is.
Or,
I know somebody
but
who's
and you
got.
said that finally accepting it, it was such a relief,
It was a
isn't it?
massive relief. It was like what you hear of people that just accept anything in their life from whatever it might be, sexuality, it might be identity or whatever. They hide and deny for a long time, and then it's a relief to come out. Well, it was exactly the same for me,
Mm.
and I'm now very comfortable with it. I'm comfortable talking about it. It doesn't mean to say it doesn't annoy me. Yeah, you get tired of having to do things differently all the
Mm.
time, and it takes time to do. It takes longer to get anywhere because you're using public. But you know what? Just because you're blind, you're not the only public transport user. A lot of people don't have cars or push bikes, so you just got to and you live your life around it. And, you know, I, I'm not going to be jealous, and I don't get envious of people or anything like that. I'm just accepting of who I am now.
Awesome. I think it's a lot like a mental battle, no? What you say, like
It's
what other people think about me, how they see me,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then finally accepting it, it
yeah,
might help you just
yeah.
go
And
forward.
and of course the other thing is, I mean, we're talking about an era. This is the '90s,
Yeah,
early 2000s. Well, I assume times have changed. Nowadays, if you were in my situation, you would probably, yeah, comfortably and happily and openly get some sort of psychological support and
mm.
assistance, with all this sort of stuff. Like, I never saw a counsellor in ever, and
Did you
not
know by that time that you could have like certain type of helps or
not really, because
not
in
very
those
much?
days it wasn't common, and it was almost like not talked about. That was another thing. Like nowadays, people talk about counselling
Yeah.
as and openly and comfortably. And I know I talked to a number of people, and in those days, if you went to a counsellor, you'd keep that a secret too. Well,
Mm.
yeah, I actually first time I saw a counsellor was when I got my first guide dog, and that was when I was 34, which is 22 years ago now.
Oh, cool.
And so I went and saw a counsellor then because they recognised at guide dogs that not only is a guide dog come into your life as an assistance, they're
Yeah.
also it makes a huge change to your life because it becomes part of your identity.
Like an emotional support as well?
And
Or
so the dog becomes part of you, because they're
yeah.
always there and they're a part of your identity. So you need to accept the fact that, when you go out, nearly every time you go out, someone talks to you, and your conversation is about the guide dog,
Yeah.
you know, and they don't talk about, and that's how it is. And and so we got support and counselling from about all of that, and that was part of guide dog training, or part of your first guide dog training. Now, I don't know if that still happens, but so counselling, I'm sure, if I'd gone to counsellors when I was 14, 15, that was a vulnerable part of any person's life when
Yeah.
you're 14, 15, 16-year-old teenage boys have got a lot changing in their lives anyway.
Mm.
Well, it would have helped. It would have helped me. I would have been more comfortable and I would have dealt with things better. And I'm sure that's a lesson that anyone could learn. Don't be frightened to seek help for these things when you need to. It could be anything. And now it's available. Now everyone should be comfortable doing it without. And and if you don't want other people to know you're seeing a counsellor, you don't have to let people know. But I think it would be certainly helpful.
Oh, that's
Any issue.
really good advice.
Well,
Yeah.
it's and the thing is, like most advice, it's obvious,
Yeah.
but you've got to listen and you've got to take it on board, or you've got to think of it.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about that advice. It's just something. But someone might have an issue, and could be anything. Could be losing their hearing. Could be losing their hair. Could be whatever, and they're not happy about it. Well, you can't. A lot of people are in denial of losing their hair, and they try to do things. Well, it's the same. I mean,
Thi-
it doesn't matter what it is; it's emotional to them, and they got to deal with it.
Thinking in retrospective, um, what other thing could you say has been one of the main lessons in your life, or some of the principles? What has been most important for you in your life?
Well, I've always tried. I always think about being a good person. I just don't like being not nice to people, and now it doesn't always help me because I make mistakes.
What do you mean it doesn't always help? Well, it sounds like being
Because
a good
I'm
person
not
usually does
assertive
help.
enough with some things.
Yeah.
Like, so I will get not taken advantage of, but walked over a little bit with things. Where
Uh,
you know,
so
it could be a
being,
little thing. Could be
could
like
you say like being too nice?
a little bit too nice, a little bit too cooperative, too nice, and things like
Yeah,
that.
sometimes
But
other
you know
people
what?
might take advantage of that. Yeah, is that what you say?
Take advantage or just use it.
Yeah.
Yes, but there's times when I've probably got better at it. My wife's taught me because a little bit over the last few years, so I have got a little bit better. But say what you
Mm.
feel and don't just say yeah. Don't be a yes person because I was probably too much of a yes person.
That's interesting. Actually, I feel like I struggle a little bit with that, like having the character sometimes to to
To
stand
say no.
to stand by your principles, to say no, or yeah, just
Well, it
to
doesn't even
raise
have
your
to be
hand.
saying it. Like I'll take a little example is something I'm dealing with right now. We are renting between homes because we're waiting for a new home to become available next few weeks. Anyway, I got a call yesterday from a real estate agent saying um, the landlord of this house wants to sell it, and he needs to have a meeting on Monday, and the next first open for inspection is next Saturday. Well, no, my first reaction was, oh, okay, yep, no worries, all right, we'll work around that. And
Mm.
then it annoyed me. I thought, come on, we're paying rent here. we can't get a place ready for sale in a week.
Mm.
I said, that's not fair on us. They've got to give us some notice. And my first reaction was yes, but oh yeah, well we'll do it anyway. Then I wrote an email last night and said, no, this doesn't suit us. You will have to wait at least 2 weeks. We have got stuff stored here. The place is a mess, and we're not ready to open up.
Mm.
And I don't think, and I thought I'm not being unreasonable
Yeah.
because we're paying a premium to rent a place.
Yeah.
It's our home. We're renting it. Well, you can't just come in and take over it because you want it. Yeah, we have some rights. Now, I would normally be very helpful and try to bend over to make it easy and make my life miserable and hard for the next 2 weeks. But
That's just an example, but this type of situations happen very often. So, what will be the lesson behind it? What you say?
the lesson would be to react immediately correctly. Now, not just say yes. So try to think clearly. Okay, before you say yes. Oh, now that's because I knew in the back of my mind. Oh God, this is a nightmare.
Yeah, like the feeling.
Yeah, I had the feeling, but I still said yes. So the lesson is to, which I obviously still learning. But it's a lesson is to trust your feeling, and if you're not sure, don't say yes straight away,
Yeah.
and think about it. Like I thought about, if I'd said, "Oh, let me think about this."
We were talking well about the principles in your life. So you mentioned that that being a good person was one of those.
Yeah, which is
Can you think of something more, or
well,
that
that
has been very
includes well
important for
always
you?
being a good family person.
Family.
I was always my immediate family. I was always strong and supportive of my children, and not I always wanted them to be good people and be considerate to other people.
Mm.
And they're both in service world. Like they're my daughter's medical, my son is military, and they actually, I think they're good people and they're considerate of other people, and they were well. And I thought it was always really important to give them a good education. I gave them every opportunity as an education, and that my wife, myself, we were on the same page with all of that. And my father-in-law was a very academic person, so
Mm.
they learned different opportunities. They had opportunities. They weren't spoiled. They didn't travel like with experience, but they did a lot when it. And
So, um, did you run the business with your wife?
no, she actually has her own business.
Oh,
My wife was a nurse for
yeah.
over 25 years in the public hospital system, and she did her service in public service in the hospital, and then she left. She got tired of working in public hospital theatres. She was in a theatre nurse, and she actually now started in her own business in cosmetic injecting, and
Mm.
so it's still an interest, and she loves it and enjoys it. And so she feels like she's sold out a little bit, but but she said, but I tried to reassure her. Look, you did plenty of service to the public service.
Yeah.
You did your 25 years rather than. But yeah, so I started and ran this business by myself since it
Mm.
started, and I own it. Well, my wife and I own it, but
Yeah.
I run it.
Well, so, well, the business has been running for over 30 years. Um, so, what would you advise to someone who is starting a business, or maybe just thinking of starting a business?
If I was starting a business, I wouldn't be frightened too. And
Sometimes we think too much about it, but we don't
I
take the
think
action.
so. And I didn't write business plans and things like that. But fortunately, I didn't go to the bank and borrow money and do anything like that to start a business. I
Yeah.
was lucky. I didn't need a lot of capital to start my business, and I got a little bit of money lent to me by my parents.
Mhm.
So I used the bank of mum and dad, which makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I paid it back. So if you went to the bank, if you needed to go to the bank for some capital, you would definitely have to do proper business plans. But if you've got an idea, but I would also make sure you were clear that you could make money out of it, because you often hear of people starting these little businesses and they're almost like an interest business, And you think to yourself, how are you going to make a living out of that? You need to, you see that all the time, don't you? You think to yourself, they're making, I don't know, whatever, some widget that might
Mm.
sell for $20 and it costs them $10 to make and takes an hour each. You think, well, you're not going to make any money. You got to make a living, and there's obviously opportunities. You can work as a contractor for people, but or you can. There's downsides to running your own business, though.
Mm. What are those downsides?
Downsides are things like you're wedded to it. You cannot take a holiday during the year while you're. I have not had a holiday during except for Christmas until this year. It was the first year.
What, 30 years without the holidays? What do
No,
you
no,
mean?
I have holidays at Christmas. Always at Christmas. I
But
take
just
two
this
to
year.
3 weeks at Christmas. But during the year, I was always at work. I took 1 or 2 weeks off a long time ago when my dad was retired. He actually was helpful with the business, and he could stay there and help
Mm.
manage it a little bit. But my dad is now 89 with dementia and aged care, so he cannot. So, but now I've got staff that can manage it while I'm away. So this year, for the first time, I took 3 weeks off during the year. Now I've never done that in 30
Really?
years. Nope. I can take 3 weeks at Christmas when
Wow.
building industry and manufacturing industry
And that's it.
closes down a bit. And that's not uncommon for business. It's not uncommon for people. You
Yeah.
don't get much holiday.
So,
You can work a lot of hours.
which years could you say they were the hardest? Like the ones
What
you
years?
were more time into the business?
Well, the hardest years for me was managing the business when the kids were probably primary school age, because they're even younger, because it's hard work having young children for anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
young children don't look after themselves,
Mm.
and I wanted to be involved in my
Mm.
children's upbringing.
I feel like that's a decision that sometimes business people or entrepreneurs have to take at some point. Family or business, where do I put
It
my
can be.
energy? No?
I think so. I think. Well, no, I don't think you have to make that. Well, I
No?
made the conscious business
How did you
to
avoid it?
have both.
Yeah.
Now, there probably was, my business wasn't like I didn't. I worked from during school time when my kids were school, 8:30 till 5. And they're
Mm.
off. They're comfortable office hours. Now, doesn't mean to say you don't take a phone call out time that hours, but that's when I'd be in the warehouse, the office, um, yeah, being involved. And of course, we're only a small business. We don't have enough. We don't have a big staff. There's only in our business. There's only really 5 people.
Yeah.
So if 2 people are away, it can require.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
Nice. Good. Good.
Mm.
Well, we have covered already some of your lessons from childhood, how it was for you, going blind with this disease, but it took you around 20 years.
Hmm.
Running the business, it was difficult. Well, yeah, your last stages of getting into blindness while managing the business and also being a parent. Uh, let's talk about sports.
Sport.
What's the role of sports? So,
I've always loved sports. One of the things I've always done since my dad got me into when I was a young boy. Well, I wouldn't say young boy, 8 or 10 or something like that. We were sailors. So he used to sail little boats and race yachts. Anyway, so I've done that all my life. So I love sailing. I love going out on the water and being part of a yacht race or being part of a crew on a boat. Now I don't do it very seriously anymore. I go out on a Wednesday. I take Wednesdays off now, and I
yeah,
go out with some friends of mine who are retired and semi-retired, similar, a bit older than me, same age or a bit older, and we race a boat in a Wednesday afternoon race out of Williamstown every Wednesday, and it's a social race as much as a serious event. It only goes for maybe 2 hours, and it's my afternoon of peace, and I love it.
Yeah, what do you feel when you once you are on the boat, or why do you
Oh,
like it?
I just enjoy being amongst friends and not
Yeah.
thinking
Or
about
maybe
work.
in the ocean, I don't know, maybe
Yeah, and I
something
just
like
like being on boats, and it's just one of these things. And yeah, we usually get down there a bit earlier. We have lunch in the bar and have maybe a beer or two, not much before we go sailing, and have a
that.
nice lunch. Go out, have a sail, do the race, have a drink or two afterwards, and then get home. And it's just a great afternoon. You know, it's one of my passions in life. I love doing that. And
Awesome.
as you would know, I'm not. I took up running for exercise. I've always enjoyed exercising, but I was going to a gym and I had a personal trainer there, and we used to just run on the machine occasionally and things
Mm.
like that. And we just for fun thought, oh, he'd guide me in a 10 kilometre event. This is four years ago, I think, Melbourne Marathon, maybe 5.
Yeah.
And we were slow, and I'd never heard of got blind running before. Like I didn't know there was a club that did it, and we just did it with just stuff. And I ran into, so we did that pretty slowly, and I ran into a guide from the Achilles Running Club, which is
Yeah.
where you are a guide, and
Mm.
very appreciative of how
Thank
you volunteers do all that sort of stuff, and it's just I just love going down and being part of the community of this club because to be honest, I haven't really had anything to do with other vision impaired people
you.
all my
Mm.
life, except for when I'd go into guide dogs for a new guide dog or training. I just didn't really socialize or do anything with other people with vision impaired. I just hung around and stayed with my normal, it's probably not the right word, my regular friends.
So interesting. So, what was your experience in socializing with other people in probably
With
similar situations?
with
Like,
vision impairment. Um, I just enjoyed the experience, and I just had other people that from all walks of life that
mm,
had challenges, and they were still so enthusiastic about being part of this group, and all the guides like yourself, Sergio, and all the
yeah,
others are really comfortable and helpful, and I don't feel like I feel like a lot of the volunteers are there, not just and some they come along and they just enjoy
yeah.
taking people, being running with people. So I don't know. It's just a community that I really enjoy. We went away to the Gold Coast and did the half marathon, which for me was just a massive challenge. Worked really. You know, I did one of the slowest half marathons that Achilles has ever done.
No, I think you have a good face running.
Oh, you think so? I don't.
Yeah, I think so. Well, about that you
I
just
loved it.
mentioned, there are 2 points that are so interesting to me. So, number one is I feel like there are many things that people with blindness can do, but maybe you guys are not even aware of that. And for example, regular people are not aware about that. For example, as you say, running,
Yep.
like maybe you didn't know that you could do it.
No, I had no idea
Uh,
this existed, and we
Riding
just
the bicycle, it is possible,
yeah. I don't like riding bikes.
and I'm sure there must be a lot of
There's
other
loads of
things.
things. There's loads of sports, and Vision Australia has a recreation whole department there where they take people on bushwalks. They take people on. They play cricket. They play goalball, whatever that is. I don't even know what that is, but apparently
Yeah,
it's a vision impaired. There's blind football.
yeah,
Emil plays blind football, I think, and there's all sorts. There's loads of things people do, and I've just never got involved in this because I've always been busy with my work, with my family, with my regular
yeah,
life, and so now now that my children have left home, they're no longer children, but now I don't have, there was a little bit of a hole that needed filling, and I filled it with Achilles, and it's
mm,
been fabulous.
yeah. Oh, and the second point of that was, yeah, you said that before you didn't socialize much with other people with blindness. Um, so now that you socialize more with people, I don't know what's the experience like. You want to continue it, or
Oh, for certain, I'll stay in the community of Achilles. There's probably other groups. I've never really been invited to. I don't know what else there is. And look, to be honest, there's not anything else. I don't need any more in my life at the moment. You
you're
know what it's
busy
like.
enough.
Well, I'm not overly busy, but I don't want to get busier. I'm probably at the age where I don't want to get any
Busy
busier.
with the right things,
Yeah, I
maybe.
keep myself busy with my work. I
Yeah,
keep my busy with my home life. I like being at home.
yeah,
I keep myself busy with my sailing, and I keep myself busy with my Achilles. And then I've got friends that I don't see enough as well. So
yeah.
there's enough at the moment to do. Maybe if I stopped working altogether, I'd find something else. And I certainly would not hesitate if there was a vision impaired interest that I could be part of again. And I don't know, it might be bushwalking, it might be, I don't know, games, it might be, who knows? I don't know, whatever it could be. I'd be more than comfortable and accepting to go and do it because I have enjoyed the community.
So for someone, for example, who is going into blindness, what do you think are the helps that they might get from, I don't know, either institutions or, as you said, technology or any type of help that,
Uh,
that
there's all
can
sorts of
make it
things.
like easier or such a
Well, the
guidance?
first thing you do is you don't hesitate to approach the organisations that do help this. Like
Mm.
Vision Australia in Kooyong, I don't have much to do with them now, but they would at least have all the people there who could help you, point you in the right direction. They can help you with mobility because that becomes a challenge. They can help you with technology for computers and reading and telephones and you audio books and things that I know you're in now. Well, they can help with all of that sort of stuff. They'll help you with assistance to adapt your home, your life, your whatever. So they've got a broad range of things. So I wouldn't hesitate to get in there. And then, as I said before, I wouldn't hesitate to talk. They would be able to help you with counsellors that specialised in dealing with the emotions of it. Because if you're going, someone was, look, not just blindness, any disability, maybe any disease. I think the emotional side is really important to look after
Mm.
as well as the physical side because they're both equally challenging.
Wow, so good. Um, I just had a short question while you were talking.
Mm.
Let's say that yeah, you lost one sense, which was the sight.
Yep.
Would you say that the other sense actually intensified more or developed more? Or yeah,
I ask.
that's probably a question that some
I'm asked this
people have,
question a
eh?
lot. They
or
say, "Oh, you must have really good hearing."
or they might, I don't know.
I, well, I've thought about, and I don't think my hearing is that good, but any better. What it is though, you use it better. Like I can hear, like you're aware, like you use your hearing to identify things. You use your smell to identify things. And this is stuff that anybody could do. Like if you learnt it and adapted to it. Like for example, if you put a blindfold on and I walked you down a shopping strip and said, okay, what shop are we in front of now?
Hmm.
And you wouldn't do this because you normally would just look in and go, oh, that's a pharmacy.
Yeah.
Well, if you learnt it, and it wouldn't take you that long to learn, you'd know a pharmacy generally, you'd stand out the front and you'd say, well, that's a quiet shop. And you can smell a pharmacy. They've got a distinctive sort of smell about them. You can stand in front of a bakery, and
Yeah.
you can smell in front of a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You can smell coffee. So they're just things you wouldn't notice well, you'd notice the smell, but you wouldn't be aware of it. And you wouldn't be aware of the sounds because you just look, because your eyes are what you rely on. Well, we rely on other senses. So I think you just learn to use your other senses better. I don't
What about
think.
for example, the spaces? Like, because I'm talking right now to you, but I always feel like you know exactly everything what is around you, like
Yeah, I don't
kind
know.
of, or maybe when you are.
I don't know. I've actually tried to train myself to look at people, even though I know I can't see them, because
Or you make like an image in your mind about
yeah, I
them.
do. I listen to where your voice is coming from, and I know. I think I know where the camera. And I don't get it right all the time. I often don't get it right. But, I think it's nice to be able to look at someone when you're talking. Now, my eyes might be off in a slightly different direction occasionally, and things like that. And I know
What do
that
you recognize about people's voice? Like, I don't know, like, yeah.
their voice.
Yeah, like sometimes the voice, I feel
You
like
know,
it communicates the feelings or something like that. Can you tell that?
Yeah, you can generally. Oh well, I think it's probably the same as everyone else. You know, when
Yeah.
someone's being patronising, someone's being nice, someone's being a bit standoffish.
Mm,
You just get to know body language. It's just the problem is you're not a visual body language. You just get to know what they're, from their tone, from the way they're talking, from the distance from where they're talking. And I guess that's just part of experience,
yeah, that was just
and
a short question.
we all get that.
Um,
We all do it.
well, Peter, we are just getting to the end of
Uh-huh.
this really nice conversation.
Well,
So,
thanks for
uh,
inviting me.
yeah, before closing,
Mm.
so well, we talk a bit about well, your entrepreneurship journey, also about your journey with blindness, a bit about the family. Let's resume that into those three or four categories. So, what would be one of the some of the main things or lessons that you are thinking? Like you said that you are approaching your 50s, a bit more.
Uh,
So,
so what's my next lesson in life?
yeah, like now you are not the 20 years or 30,
Well,
now you are over 50. So, yeah,
my
go ahead.
next lesson in life is something that's occupying my mind a lot and thinking about. I'm in the transition. I'm 56, nearly 50, 57 next month.
Yeah,
So I want to work out how to retire. Now, I don't dislike working. I like working, but I don't want to work as hard and be as committed as I have been for the last 30 odd years. So I need to, my now lesson is to work out how I can do the financial side of it's easy. That's maths and adding up and knowing how, working out what you want to spend and budgets and things like that. Now, you don't want to know when you've got the money you need to do it. But for me, and this is a challenge for everybody,
mm,
not everybody, but most people, is you need to fill in time. Like you hear of too many people that retire and say, oh, you know,
next year.
that's no, they say, oh, don't retire. It's boring. You sit around at home and all. So I need to find, and this is where it was interesting what you were saying to asking me before about would you join other blind communities and do other things. Well, I will, and I need to work out if I do. You can't spend, I can't spend every day sailing. I
Mm,
can't spend every day running with Achilles because it just doesn't happen. You need to find a balance to fill in time that is interesting and you enjoy and is productive. Now, I would like to do some more community. I'd like to do some community work. Now, I don't know what it is I could do to help
yeah,
out, but I'm sure there's something I can do and find. I haven't got anything in mind.
yeah, I think
You
so.
I could. I'd love to find something to fit. So planning retirement is my next step, because I want to
No,
travel. I want to. I'm not. When I say I want to travel, I want a holiday. I'm not one of these people that can go away for 3 or 4 months. I go away for 2 weeks. 3 weeks is too long a holiday for me. I
yeah,
like to be home. I'm a bit of a homebody. I'm comfortable. So
yeah.
this is all a plan and a lesson that I need to learn, and but, I'm thinking about it and preparing it, and that's what
That's a
planning and preparing is really important in life.
that's the challenge nowadays. All right, and then this is the last question. So this is a hypothetical situation.
Yep.
Yeah, let's say these are just some of the last opportunities for you to give your message, let's say to your children, but also to your community around you. Last opportunity to tell them like a lesson
A
or
lesson.
something
Well,
hypothetical
my lesson
situation.
to other people or my children would always to be kind and considerate,
Mm,
and don't only think of yourself, and be just be good, and and do what you and also do what you want to make yourself happy, and not what other people want you to do. Like if you can't suffer in a career doing something you don't like, because you've only got one life on this world planet. Don't work in a job that you hate for your whole life just to because you need the money. Well, there look for opportunities to keep yourself interested and happy, and you know, and not just go through life, go through the motions of life. Actually, enjoy life while you're on this planet for this very, very short time in history we're here. That's
Awesome.
that's what I would say.
Peter, thank you very much
That's a
for
pleasure. Thank you for
participating.
inviting me along, Serge.
So
You're a
thank you,
legend.
Jim. I think Jim is still sleeping, but it's
Jim, you like? Did you enjoy that? Hey, Jim. Come on, buddy. Come and say hello to everybody. He didn't enjoy it, did he? Good boy. Sit down.
he's still sleeping.
Oh, you're going back to
Well, that
sleep.
went pretty well.
You think so?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
good.
like
Ah.
it, like it. Yes.
Now you can edit it, cut out all the stuff that's boring,
No, it's good.
bring
It's
it down to 2 minutes, and
good.
Ah.